Greetings, friends, and welcome to the woods. I annoyed quite a number of, well, I annoyed a handful of people recently by pointing out that stories shape our our landscape. It shapes our reality. It influences us in how we create the reality around us, in particular, the consensual reality around us. And there are some people who have an issue with that because they don't quite see how that fits into free will versus fate. Now, this gets a little complicated, and I apologize. I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can. We do not exist in a vacuum. We are creating the reality around us, but we exist within a matrix where many other life forms are doing the same thing. Not just other humans, although that's a big factor, but also the flora and fauna and the earth herself. All of these beings have consciousness. They have their own karma. They have their own life strand. They have their own way of being that comes out of the intention of their creation, married with the nurturance that formed their character. And in addition, once their character's more or less established, the choices that they make along the way, it influences what's going to happen. And as there are certain crux points in our history, in our life scheme as a species, or as a nation, or as an organization, a company, a family, all of these different subsets have their own independent character, their own independent life that is made up of all of the individuals that have contributed their life energy to establishing its being. For instance, if you've driven a car for a while, if you've driven different cars, you may notice that a car will have its own personality. It's a composite of the intentions that went into its making and the personality of the person who designed it and those who put it together, their intentions, their life energy, and the person who purchases it and uses it, drives it. And all of those spun into one creates the individual, the individuality and the character of the car. You may have noticed the same thing with computers or houses. You may walk into a house and feel it just has a certain style, character. It has a certain being. And the older a house is, the stronger that's going to be, because when we bring our creative force to something, we influence it. So a house will be the energies of those who've lived within it, who built it, who designed it. There's a lot more complexity to creation and how we live our life than we tend to think about from day to day. But if you know how to interact with the persona of what you are interfacing with, whether it's driving a car or fixing a computer or living in a house or an apartment or walking in a park, walking along the trail, the park itself, a component of all of the creatures that currently live there, as well as the humans who shaped it. There's a lot more about life. We, with our blinders, we see our space in it. But if you widen your perceptions, you will notice that there's a lot of other factors that influence the world we live in. And that's why techniques like The Secret aren't always as effective as people want them to be. If you simply concentrate on something being true, and it affects not just you, but others around you, your vote in What So has to be stronger, greater, and more aligned with Source than all of the others who have put their energy into it. If you want to shift its course. So simply telling yourself, this is true, this is true, this is true, this is true, is not going to make it happen. Having a very strong will helps, but having alliances with others within the scope of what you're trying to influence, or even outside of it, but who are strong and seek to move what you're attempting to shift in the direction that you want it to go, is helpful. Leaders have a very difficult time because they're managing the energy of an entire group, and the more chaotic and disunified that group doesn't have something to unify them, that they all see as a goal or a priority and they want to work toward. If they're moving in different directions, it makes that leader's job very difficult. And that's why we have these stories. So why we have these stories that we can tell. We tell each other, we believe in them, we believe that they're important or they're good for us to learn from. It's an identity within our tribe, within our community. We adopt those stories as being our stories, our music, our sense of dressing style. All of the arts are designed to create boundaries or to bring people together or to inspire us and to help us unite, help us work together for the purpose of reality creation. Yes, stories make a difference. That's why in colonizing the North American continent, when people would come over, one of the first things they would, in a lot of the stable communities, first thing they'd create would be a church. The church was also, it doubled as their schoolhouse. All of the adults would meet together once a week, Sunday, and verify what needed to happen in the community, and then put energy toward whatever they wanted to change or improve, increase. That's their prayer. The energy out there to make their community strong. First thing. It was also often doubled or tripled as a civic building. It's where they all met when there was a problem so they could work it out. And they all came together to create this building, all of the adults. And what underlied it, what made it strong, was the religion. The religion, the group of stories that had a hero who was their role model, who taught them through the lessons of his life and the stories he directly shared, taught them how to be with each other, how to interact with each other. And different people would have different interpretations on those stories. Different groups of people would have their own interpretation and go their own way with how they wanted to enact those stories in their life. But the stories being retold and retold, and usually on Sunday, one of the stories or part of one of the stories would be told to help teach a lesson to the community, bring them together, and help harness their power to shift things or consolidate things. We do have free will, but these processes, these tools that humans have used forever to work together matter. And when you choose a story or a group of stories, when you choose a hero or a number of heroes to populate your stories, I'm not saying the stories aren't real, but they're stories. When you choose that, you're making a decision to follow a certain archetypical process. And it's going to affect the reality that you create. Now, in today's world, it isn't the church. It's our screens. It started off as television, and it's evolved. Now it's phones, computers, it's our screens. And for many of us, we're telling our own story. But there are those who it's their profession, it's their way in the world to create stories for us. And there's a lot of influences on them to make stories go in certain directions. And it was noted that decades ago, that when we sit down in front of screens, the flicker of the lights, that we go into a trance state that affects us on a deep subconscious level, so that the stories that we bring in, the messages that we bring in, they're not necessarily filtered by the conscious mind, which makes them all the more impactful. And we haven't always been very aware or very careful about the stories that we have brought into ourselves without filter. Those stories will impact our reality base. You can take it back. You can shift your reality base. You can take it back from the consensual reality if you want. But you have to know the process. You have to know how they've been seeded into you. There are those who believe that it's your family that raises you, that does all of this. But a lot of us haven't been primarily raised by our families. And in successive generations, that's become even more true as the parents have become so busy that they hand over the enculturalization, the training, the base training of reality to the screens. I think I've probably gone far enough on this because I'm getting some interference here. But thank you for sharing time with me. Welcome to the woods.